Part 2 of Kay and Brian's Adventures by Rail, St Moritz and the Bernina Express.
So as you saw in the last video, here we were arriving at St Moritz. It sounds so posh even saying it, and indeed it was a lovely place. We arrived just at sunset and we lifted up from the station all the way up to the top of the hill where the hotel was, the Schweizerhof. So you see from the pictures that we were leaving, looking right on the road. There was an unusual lift there, which Kay travelled on, which actually moved sideways from the car park down below, across and up to the road that we were walking up to the top of the hill. As you went past the buildings, the darkness started to fall and the lights came on with this lovely red glow looking over the lake behind our hotel.
As Brian said, I went up the lift and lots of other people went up the moving staircase. When we arrived at the top, we saw lots of shops with their lights on and it looked very inviting. And we got to the square, which was where our hotel was.
There was a hot blast of air as we got into the hotel through the front door. We was allocated rooms and then straight to dinner where we met the rest of the group that we were going to be with. Afterwards, compulsory drinks and then a look out over the horizon.
Do you know, I could seriously wake up to this as often as I felt like, because that's the panoramic view of St Moritz.
Today we're off to Italy, so bye St Moritz for now. Have breakfast first to fill our guts before we go, and then off down to the train station, ready for an adventure in Italy.
We walked down the streets of St Moritz, past the lake with the mist to the train station.
So the adventure continues with the fantastic Bernina Express to Tirano in Italy. It actually drops from 5,823 feet at St Moritz to 1,407 in Tirano. But in between, it actually climbs up to 7,392 feet on the Bernina Pass. But the scenery is spectacular. The images that you can see through the windows, fantastic. The only problem is that we do get a lot of reflection from the windows, which spoils some of the photographing that you take through the windows. There is some open windows that we could take decent pictures from, but I was just dead pleased that the brakes are well serviced on the train. You can hear them squeaking on certain parts of the journey, as that's all that's holding us back from dropping. The trains are specifically designed and don't actually use a track in the middle, which is surprising, but they are very well serviced, thank goodness. As you heard, that was the noise from the brakes as we thought, well, I thought we were descending, but in actual fact, we were going up first to Largo Bianco, which has a Pisio Bernina, the highest railway station on the route down to Taverno. It sits at 2,253 metres, which is quite high. And then we started going down through the Bernina Pass down to Alp Grum, which is a station where we stopped and had a 20-minute break so we could have a look around at the local highlights, which were spectacular yet again.
Alp Groom is famous because of its spectacular panoramic views over the valley and the glacier, but the stop also served for the passing of the train going in the other direction.
Once past, we continued our descent. Down, down, deeper and down. That reminds me of a song.
Not only do these photographs show how tight the tunnels are, but I also thought they were quite artistically composed.
The sights continue to be awe-inspiring as we descend further and further down the Alps. Everything is spectacular. We're looking left, looking right, all over. It's such a beautiful sight.
San Carlo is a typical small settlement beside the Bernina Express, bordering on the town of Poschiavo.
Pretty soon we realise we're approaching Poschiavo, which is an Italian town in one of the Swiss cantons. As we slowly go down the hill, we're looking from the hillside over across to this beautiful village spread amongst the valley. As we travel along, we get the pleasure of going alongside La Presse Lake, which has got this lovely azure sheen to it, but it still looks clear. As the lake disappears into the distance, we continue our journey, again seeing things like the tail of the train winding round ahead of us, or passing behind us, or going through viaducts while we went over them and then under them. It was a fascinating journey.
Hooray, hooray, we're nearly at this corkscrewed viaduct. I'm so excited.
The glare through the windows sometimes cut out the best pictures, but we can't take away from the fact that weather was absolutely brilliant.
I couldn't believe the spectacular weather we had. By now I was getting so excited because we were getting so close to the spiralling round of the corkscrew viaduct at Brusio. This was one of the highlights of the Bernina Express.
After a while on this journey, you think to yourself that it resembles a very low-speed roller coaster. For the elder gentleman and lady, thank you.
What? Brian said he didn't realise how excited I was about the corkscrew, but I was holding the excitement in.
Just when you think the journey can't get any better, you arrive at Tirano. The only time the journey seems more important than the destination until you arrive. Tirano town is in the Lombardy region of Italy and the Italian terminus for the Bernini. It has the Basilica della Madonna di Tirano, vineyards and a historic centre, but time was moving on and we were fast approaching feeding time. So we looked around and found a lovely open restaurant by the square. We sat down and had lunch, and the locals were friendly and seemed genuinely pleased to see us and welcomed our custom. There's nothing more satisfying than relaxing over a meal with a drink in company and while the rest of the world goes around. While we ate, we watched various parties select a venue and settle down to eat themselves. We finished our meal and decided to explore the town, suitably fed and watered.
After our meal, we wandered through the cobbled streets. It seemed quite quiet in some areas. I was surprised that there was very little traffic.
As we weaved in and out of the old cobbled streets, we emerged into the newer establishments until we eventually felt we had covered most of the town, gathering our bearings and using the local landmarks, in particular the river. We headed back to the station. This much adventure can only be quenched with a large Italian ice cream, which we found near the station. We once again balanced our bodies by devouring the ice cream in the shade before catching the train back on our epic journey to St Moritz. One can never imagine a journey could seem so different going back along the same track, but looking up is not the same as looking down, and with so much spectacular scenery, there is so much that seems so different, so much that changes with perspective. The viaducts so much more spectacular, the train itself so impressive, more so as it climbs the Alps. Hannibal, eat your heart out, a train much more impressive in its red livery than an elephant. Beaming out into the sunshine, the Bernina train was everything a train journey should be. Clean, pristine, even with gleaming windows allowing you to take in the open vista and wonder at the beauty of nature. The trip back was soon over. As we got back to St Moritz, and a truly memorable adventure brought to a close.